the needs
Joining me now
of everybody.
is David Jolly, MSNBC political analyst, a former Republican congressman who's no longer affiliated with the party. David, you're a politician. You ran for office in the state of Florida. I don't know if you served in Congress when DeSantis was a Tea Party freshman congressman.
I did.
What you understand, I think, better than anyone else, I worked in politics for a while, but I think you understand it better than I do, is that there are two kinds of ways to run for office. There is paid media, where you purchase an ad, you purchase ad time on TV, you send out postcards, everything like that's paid media. And then there's earned media. Earned media is way more valuable. It's far more valuable. It's when you can get unpaid media. It's when you can get the media to pay attention to you and to watch you doing something that's only positive, where there's no negative spin attached to it, where you don't have to pay for it, it's not an ad. That was like huge earned media. And I think DeSantis understands that the earned media that he gets from doing these press conferences is very valuable to him politically. Let's just be clear, right? Am I wrong? Am I right about that?
No, you're exactly right. Look, a governor or a president at a time of crisis and tragedy it has the opportunity to project leadership and strong leadership. And, in the early days, that leadership really goes unquestioned. But as the days go by, that leadership does get evaluated. And so, look, I think there's a lot of heat coming towards Ron DeSantis for a couple of reasons. He is now a Republican governor who needs one person to help him, and it's Joe Biden. And he needs the help of Joe Biden. And then he also needs the help of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, because there will be an aid request that the Congress has to approve, likely when they approve a final appropriations bill in early December. Ron DeSantis knows that the Florida economy cannot absorb the tragedy that just hit. The federal government and Washington will need national Democrats to agree to help Ron DeSantis. And so while the projection of strength now is important for protecting human life and recovery of those who might be missing or stranded, what will happen in the coming days is Floridians and the nation will realize that Florida is not in a place economically to absorb the tragedy that just happened. Hurricane Ian, if Florida had to absorb it, it would wreck Florida's economy. It would destroy what is left of a home insurance market that is already teetering on the brink of default. And it would expose the misbalance, if you will, the lack of balance between how we spend money on certain priorities. Joy, you raised the analogy or the focus on the fact that this is a governor who just spent money to evict migrants from the state of Texas to Martha's Vineyard. Governor Ron DeSantis asked for $18 million to evict migrants. Today, his wife, in announcing what will soon become the Casey Fund, this humanitarian fund that his wife will go around the state ensuring Florida displaced residents receive some aid, was proud to announce $1.5 million to $2 million. Think about that. This is where the heat's coming. The heat's coming because this is a governor who is the administrator of an economy that's on the brink of collapse, who has spent money on priorities that don't support Floridians. And while today we focus on his executive leadership, there will be hard questions coming.
And by the way, it's not even executive leadership. He is simply, all he has to do now is open up his arms and receive federal money. Let's just be clear. That is the executive leadership. We heard Russell Honore yesterday say, you read the script. Other than that, he's got his person that's in charge of disaster recovery will do that. As you said, this is going to become a federal issue. Those of you who have not lived in Florida don't understand. A lot of people buy their homes. They get hurricane insurance. Hurricane insurance is not flood insurance. This was not a windy storm. This was a rainy storm. This was a floody storm. You have a lot of stagnant water that is destroying property right now. People are going to have to go to FEMA. People are going to have to go to the feds for that money. And when Ron DeSantis was in Congress, and you guys were in Congress, when he was a Tea Party freshman, when New York and New Jersey faced the exact same tragedy, I mean, literally, the subways in New York were flooded. People could have drowned in the subway. When Ron DeSantis had the opportunity to make that decision and say, well, should the people of New York and New Jersey, who were hit by a catastrophic hurricane they weren't even used to, they're not even in Florida, they're not used to hurricanes, he said no. That shouldn't happen. He, Marco Rubio, and other Tea Party members, Senate and House, said they shouldn't have that money. It's too expensive. And now, as you said, he's now got to go hand in hand to Joe Biden for aid.
right.
It's something he didn't even believe in as a Tea Partier.
He is about to have to justify doing something that is antithetical to his entire ideological narrative. His entire story as a conservative Republican is anti-Washington, and that people should absorb their own risk and people should take care of their own lives. Well, in a time of tragedy, people need help. And where Ron DeSantis is a no government conservative, he's about to become a big government Republican. At the same time that Ron DeSantis and Marco Rubio were voting no, I was introducing a national catastrophic fund that said somehow we have to aggregate floods and fires and tornadoes and ice storms and all these other tragedies that befall the American people and figure out how do we absorb the cost to reset people's lives. Ron DeSantis and others said, no, we don't have to do that. That's not our role. And Ron DeSantis led a no government wing of the Republican Party that says, let people be on their own. Now he's in a position as the governor of having to do something for them. And the only way he can do that, Joy, the only way is by asking for Washington, D.C. to bail him out.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is what hangs in the balance is his entire political career. He will be judged by the way he performs and succeeds in this moment, but he's not going to be able to do it on his own. Now, I actually think he has the audacity that he will go hat in hand while at the same time insulting Joe Biden and Democratic leaders, because that's where his politics are.
And by the way, just one more thing, because we have another guest I want to bring in, but I just want to make this point for the audience to really be clear about this. Ron DeSantis, that $12 million that they used to ship migrants and go to Texas, another state, and take those migrants, that was money that was interest money from COVID relief funds. So he didn't want to use the money for COVID relief. He wanted to use it for that, for these demonstrations of cruelty, because there actually in the Republican Party is no political reward for compassion. The reward that you get in the party is for cruelty. It isn't for compassion. Wokeness and compassion is considered weakness, and so you don't get a reward for that. And people who have tried to do the compassion thing and the bipartisan compassion thing have suffered for it. Chris Christie, let us not forget, Chris Christie hugged President Obama before the 2012 election because after Hurricane Sandy, he understood they needed the money. He embraced President Obama and lost any chance that he would ever be president of the United States. Charlie Crist, who is a deeply compassionate man, he is kind of like Joe Biden. He's a huggy guy. He's going to come and give you a hug if you're hurting. He essentially was booted out of the party for being compassionate to voters who were standing in long lines in 2008 for taking Obama stimulus money when, the economy was collapsing. There isn't a Republican you can think of who's been rewarded for demonstrating compassion. You get rewarded for doing stunts like what DeSantis was doing before and being cruel. Your thoughts?
Joy, Joe Biden will come to Florida, and there's only one way that Ron DeSantis should handle that: with grace, with hospitality, and with gratitude for the federal government. Now, I don't know if he will do that, and I don't know how long that will last, but that will be a test of his fitness, as you mentioned, as it was for Chris Christie and for Charlie Crist. I would also say this. I would say this. It's very, very important. Ron DeSantis said to Joe Biden, you alone, by the stroke of a pen, can ensure FEMA programs absorbs 100% of the cost. Guess what, Ron DeSantis? You alone, by the stroke of a pen, can determine whether you spend the legislature's $18 million to evict migrants from the state of Texas to Martha's Vineyard, or use that $18 million on Floridians who are displaced tonight. Let's see if Ron DeSantis will do the right thing. Including
in Orlando, the place that you just stripped of $2 billion because you wanted to punish Disney. Those are the people you got to help now, Ron DeSantis. Can you do that and still be a Republican nominee in 2024?